Welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast. Happy leap year, I guess you could say. So happy birthday to Axel. Used to work with you at BRAC. You know who you are. And Aunt Sandy from Michigan. I don't know how old you guys are, but in leap years. But yeah, happy birthday to you guys. Let's start off with a reflection. Stretch. As spring approaches and the world begins to warm, pay attention to the way life around you rises to the occasion. The plants are waiting, full of potential energy and anticipation. They will uncoil and grow, stretching themselves to greet the sun. They are preparing even if you cannot see them yet. They will climb and cover the whole world with green when the time comes. All right. So we got that, and then I saved a little something from the old Instagram today. I like to read like daily sayings, manifestations, motivations, whatever you want to call them. I'll read that one too. You have to be patient for what's meant for you. Don't rush it, force it, or try to manipulate it. Don't settle or worry or overthink it. It's already aligned for you. Trust it and believe it. So, kind of what I wanted to talk about today, had a couple of different topics. Really couldn't decide which one. I didn't formally prepare any notes because, that's me. I like to wing it. I like to live on the edge a little. I could do better at planning episodes, and I sometimes do. I think it depends on what it is, but sometimes my inspiration and or motivation comes in the daily things that happen, daily things that I think about, daily things that I'm inspired by. Things that I think about when I'm sitting around listening to podcasts while I Uber, or sometimes inspiration and or topic comes from interactions on TikTok. And, I kind of just pull from all those places and I have ideas and topics. And then I go for kind of whatever feels right. And what feels right today is talking about the daily grind. Some are probably going to understand it differently than others, because the points of view are different. But, when I say daily grind, what do you think of? Most people think of it's that, depending on what time you wake up. If you're a gym goer, getting to the gym, getting to work, doing work, solving all those issues and problems. Then maybe picking up your child from school, doing homework, getting them to take a bath, getting them ready for bed. Lots of steps, and that doesn't even include taking care of yourself. Doing all the things that you need to do. And there's so much in between. Days are full. And that might be like your typical person who has the 9-to-5 job. But if you're not on that 9-to-5 schedule, like myself, the daily grind's a little different. And, kind of as I was thinking about this topic, what makes that grind difficult and or different is that when you're not on the 9 to 5 and you're kind of doing your own thing, because I Uber, so I have to make myself go out and do that and work and podcasting, is I have to be self-motivated to grind. You have to want to grind. You have to take pleasure in the shitty parts of it, of making it happen. But, that builds self-confidence, self-discipline. What makes it so different is, let's say when I went to graduate school, it was a different kind of grind. Relocating my family to a new town, taking a new job, while being in grad school. It was a lot. Waking up at 5 a.m. to study, studying when I got off of work, and I was usually probably putting in 10, 11-hour days at least, because I was new and learning. Spending your weekends at the library studying instead of with your family and trying to catch up on work. But with those, with that grind, yes, it was difficult and time consuming, and you have to have a lot of self-motivation to make yourself study. But one of the primary distinctions is that there's a finish line. A program is 15 or 18 months. You take the classes that they assign you, prescribed to you. You got to pass the classes, of course. But then there's an end. If you do X, then Y is the outcome, graduation. And I think, when we have kind of these set parameters, while you can make it through that grind, and even though it's tough, you kind of have this frame of reference as it relates to a start and a finish, a timeline. My buddy Andrew and I, we've done 2 marathons. We've done the Bataan Death March twice in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And there's a start and there's a finish. But all along that way, you can kind of gauge where you're at because it's marked by miles. You got 26.2 miles to go. And, I'm at mile 3. I'm at mile 5. And that as long as you don't twist your ankle, get dehydrated, fuck yourself up somehow. Sometimes it's not your own fault. Nature and 26 miles is grueling. But that if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you'll get there. All you got to do is not quit. And graduate school was kind of the same way. That if you do the work and you put in the time and you put in the effort, that at the end of that effort comes graduation, the goal, the reward, what you worked so hard for. And I think that makes it a little easier, even though it's difficult. And I'm going to explain. I'm going to elaborate, if you will. my grind now, the hard part is there's not really a finish line. And this is kind of why I think I relate, respect, and love, and I'm always interested in deeper exploring, like, musicians, comedians, because that grind is very similar in that, you know, you have to be a little bit self-sufficient to do those kinds of jobs or to do what I'm doing now. You have to be self-motivated. You have to make yourself do the work. Yeah, there's a starting line, and everybody started somewhere, day one. But, you know, I think the part of it that interests me so much is that where's the finish line? You know, do you think Dave Chappelle thinks he's reached the finish line? Possibly one of the greatest, or not possibly, definitely one of the greatest comedians ever. And then you have people at all different levels of the game. People who are starting out, people in the middle. And you got your Chris Rocks, your Dave Chappelles, Tom Segura. We'll leave Bertrand out. Just in case he ever hears it, he can feel jealous. But, you know, you have all these people at all these different levels, and, you know, I have to wonder, do they think they're done? Where do they see their finish line? Because I have to ask myself, like, where do I see my finish line? Is there one? Or is it this personal journey that you just continue pushing forward, grinding it out, kind of topping yourself, if you will? Because it's hard sometimes to stay motivated or focused when you can't see a finish line, when you don't know where the finish line is. I mean, I suppose you can make small finish lines by setting goals and completing them. But, like, let's say with the podcast, you know, where is the finish line on this grind? Is it X number of subscribers? Is it X number of downloads? Is it a certain spot on the chart in the podcast rankings? You know, so it's like this open-ended goal. Because I'm sure I could set, you know, and I do. I can set goals. Hey, I want this many followers, this many listens, you know, by a certain time. And maybe you hit that mark. But, you know, the funny thing about life is also sometimes while you're working towards the finish line in one place, you know, life will move the finish line. Things change. And, you know, so by the time you reach one thing, you're like, oh shit, man, now I thought that was it. And now I got to keep going. You know, it kind of reminds me of when we did the Bataan Death March. You crossed the finish line, 26.2 miles, but you ain't done. You still got to fucking walk to your car, which isn't close. You know, drive back, shower, all that stuff. Before you can kind of, sit back and smell the roses, if you will, just like you would a professional life. You got to go wash the dirt off. You need to eat. You need to take care of yourself. So it's like, even once you reach the finish line, there's still work to be done. And, the reason I kind of say all these things is because I'm in that daily grind, like many of you. And sometimes you can't see the finish line. Sometimes you're reaching your small goals and need to set bigger ones. Sometimes the goal line got moved on you, as it has me before. But for me, I think it's kind of one of these things of going, am I making a dent? Am I moving the needle forward? I mean, you can look at streams, downloads, whatever you want to call it, likes, views, through TikTok, Instagram, however you're promoting your stuff, and you can see if you're moving the needle, if you're getting increased likes, increased followers, increased streams or downloads. And it never happens as fast as you want. Hence, what I read in the beginning about being patient. If music, comedy, podcasting, if this is your thing and it's for you, and that's your journey, you got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. You got to keep doing it. Maybe whether you see the progress or not. I purposely don't look at streams or downloads often. I used to look at them more daily when I was trying to reach certain goals, but it'll drive you crazy. It's better for me. I just kind of forget about it and go back and check, and I can see if the needle's moved. And it's the same way like when you're doing a marathon. 26 miles is a long way. And if you're looking at each step, it's going to be long. It's better to throw on some headphones, put it out of your mind, and just keep grinding, putting one foot in front of the other, and next thing you know, you look up and, hey, there's the mile 15 marker. But, I find it difficult sometimes to determine, am I moving the needle? Am I making a difference? Is this going as it should? Is it going to reach where it needs to reach? Or will it always be like this? And, as I was listening to podcasts and looking through reels and stuff, I come across a fellow podcaster on TikTok, Wes Tankersley, with Shaping Success, and he had a snippet on like something very similar, and his message was that, well, if you stop the grind, then you're never going to get the amount of streams that maybe you were reaching for. The amount of likes, if you stop posting, if the grind wears you out so much and grinds you to a pulp that you're like, I just don't want to do this anymore, then you're never going to reach the finish line, wherever it is, even if they move it. And, I think if that's the kind of attitude you're going to roll with, why would you even start the race? So, I'm not talking to the quitters out there. I'm talking to the people like myself who just need a little boost, a little reassurance, a little reminder, a little pick-me-up that you got to keep grinding. Even if nobody else sees you, I see you. I get it. I know what it's like. I know the frustration, the trying to do multiple things at once, trying to provide for your family, trying to earn a living, trying to do this thing on the side, trying to make it happen. And I think, too, it's going to boil down to importance. Why did I keep putting one foot in front of the other for the Bataan Death March? Well, because I needed to complete it for myself. The second time, I was leading a team of people, and I told my team I was going to do it. And in order for me to keep my word to my team and myself, I did it. Now, I'm sure if I stop podcasting today or tomorrow, people might wonder, oh, where did he go? What happened? This or that, it just went away. But for me, it's about me and my word to myself and what I said I was going to do. And kind of going back to last week's episode where I said that, I started a podcast because I just needed some sort of direction to go. I needed to be doing something positive, something consistent, just like exercise. And this podcast is a way of holding myself accountable. And, I don't know what the expectations of it are. It evolves, just like the finish line, moves sometimes. I started it for one reason, I continue to do it for another, and as it shapes, it will continue to evolve into whatever it's going to evolve into. But at the end of the day, given most of the things I've ever done in my life, which were to serve others, I would hope that somebody gets something out of the podcast. Maybe you're just able to relate. Maybe I say something that catches your attention. Maybe you understand that you're not alone. There's lots of purposes it can serve. And it's my way of service, along with staying consistent to myself. But it's kind of like going back to, I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what the finish line is. I mean, sure, I would like to have sponsorship, and I would like for more people to hear it and hopefully get something out of it. But I don't, that's not my why. I guess being a professional podcaster, this is just kind of the vehicle, if you will, for me, and who I am. And, at the end of the day, whether it's through the podcast, a job, a conversation, I'm just trying to add value, to be a value add to your life, to your conversation. Maybe just give you a different perspective. Or maybe just listen. Although if you're listening to me on here, you very well understand I can't listen to you, but I am a good listener. And people are my passion. Which means all of you listening are my passion. Loving strangers. Giving love to people that other people throw shade at, look at, maybe as less than. Or maybe they think they're too good to show love or kindness to a stranger, a bum, whoever. Not me. I've always kind of been the opposite. I would say I was friends with everyone in high school. I didn't identify with one group. And I wasn't mean to people that other people might have considered scrubs or less than. I never threw words of shade at that because, I don't know, I knew from a very early age that I was different and that was not the way to be. And I can tell you as life has gone on, and maybe some of those people that were a little less popular in high school passed away, committed suicide. I don't have any guilt or regret about the way I treated them. But I keep saying that way too much. Thinking about my why, I've identified from a very early age what I care about and how I'm going to be and act towards people and love people and care about them and serve them. And that's what the podcast is here to do, along with holding myself accountable. So this is my daily grind. At the end of the podcast, you can go like, rate, subscribe, review, whatever. You can leave comments. Tell me about your daily grind. Go to Instagram, go to TikTok, Coming Alive. I like these discussions. What about your daily grind is difficult? Is it are you in a similar situation as me where you don't know where the finish line is? You're just going to take off walking and hopefully you'll reach it someday. And try to enjoy the scenery along the way. Or maybe you're that 9-to-5 person. Or a teacher. They have hard lives too. They gotta go home and grade papers. It's like work ends, but not really. Then you also have people who leave their families for 2 weeks at a time, go work in the oil fields, come back. You know, we all face these different circumstances as it relates to what causes friction in our day-to-day. But we all have that similar baseline in that we all have it, and we can all relate. And, you know, I just want you to know, like I said before, I see you. I hear you. And you can always reach out if you just need a little encouragement, if you need to keep going. Because if you don't keep going, you'll never reach the finish line. If you stop, you'll never reach the finish line. If you never start, you sure as hell ain't gonna reach the finish line. So just like I find it difficult sometimes for myself, I'm telling you, I'm telling myself, be patient. Even though you can't see the finish line, it's out there. And keep grinding. Peace.